Welcome to the 2022 mock evaluation speech contest. You cannot imagine how excited I am about this event, but what makes me the most enthusiastic is our panel of 6 outstanding speech evaluators who will be evaluating the speech that you have just watched called What is Wrong with You? My goal is to go to the World Championship of Public Speaking with this speech at some point in the coming years. So this is a Hello and welcome. Nice to see you. Welcome to Patty Pat's Toastmasters journey, where I share all kinds of content on everything related to public speaking because I'm very, very passionate about public speaking in every way, shape, or form. I invite either world champion speakers or motivational speakers, and I share my speeches because I'm documenting my pathway to completing my presentation mastery path, Toastmasters. And we have a whole lot of fun here. And this is the reason why I'm here today. Let me share what's going on here. So I do a lot of stuff, clearly, but a few months back, a good friend of mine, Alex McCarney, told me, Pat, you should invite one of your guests on your YouTube channel and I would come and we could give an evaluation of one of your speech. And at that moment, I was saying, yeah, that's not really what I'm up to right now. I have a lot of interviews booked right now. So, but definitely one day, but right now it's just, I don't have the capacity for that. So I sort of forgot about it. And then recently, my friend Veba Vadera invited me to be a test speaker at his club in Leicester in the UK. And I said, sure, why not? I already had a few speeches prepared. So I took the one that I cared the most about. What's Wrong with You is the title of it. It's a message very close to my heart. So I went there, delivered my speech, and received 5 or 6 evaluations. I think it was 5 evaluations from outstanding evaluators that were trying to win the International Speech Evaluation Contest. So then I was blown away. And then I had told Veba, can I get the recording so I can put this on my YouTube channel? Because this is awesome. He goes, no, this is an official contest. It's not possible. Damn it. But I said, oh, but wait a minute, I can create my own mock contest. So here we are. I had such a good time with this one. Oh my goodness. I think last time I had this much fun was when I recorded the blind date with Patty. But this is even better because I'm bringing you into the public speaking world. We're constantly pushed out of our comfort zone. Every week we meet at our clubs, or every week or every other week, depending what kind of club you're in. But we meet regularly and we receive feedback on how to improve, become better. And this is what this is about, so that you get a little flavor of what happens, how it is to receive feedback to become better. And of course, I had phenomenal speech evaluators that I selected, wonderful individuals from different parts of the world, actually. And it was just such a fun experience, and they all have such a different style. So you can take your pick on, what it is, what kind of style you prefer. But essentially, you have the full view of, oh, this is what it looks like. And I'll take some comments, and I won't accept some other ones. It's my message. I need to craft it for me to be comfortable with it. But it just expands my mind to have all these individuals giving me different ideas that I would have never thought of. It's like a kind of mastermind situation, I guess. So I will not talk too much. We're going to jump right into the contest. But I just want to thank my friend Alex McCarney and Veba Vadera for this amazing idea. And this is going to be a whole lot of fun. And don't forget, you'll get to vote. You'll be the judge of this. So whoever you prefer, I know you'll very likely be biased and vote for your friends or, or your club members or your family members. But, just give a chance to all the speech evaluators and pick one that you feel did the best job. You don't have to tell them. I won't tell them who you voted for. Without delay, let's get started. If it's not already done, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell so that you'll know whenever I be posting my next content. I post once or twice a week. That's how excited I am about this whole public speaking thing. All right, let's do this. Hey, what is wrong with you? Have you ever asked yourself that question when someone aggressively cuts you off on the road while showing you their finger? Or when you witness an irate customer verbally abusing a young cashier for no apparent reason. Or when you witness a loved one that kept making poor life choices that made you want to just shake them back to their senses. Dear friends, perhaps the question we should ask ourselves instead is, what happened to you? As the psychiatrist, Dr. Bruce Perry, actually explains in a book that is called What Happened to You, understanding how the brain reacts to past trauma helps understand how what has happened to us in the past shapes who we are, how we behave, and why we do the things we do. Let's see if we can shift from asking, hey, what is wrong with you? To asking, what happened to you? In the next few minutes. Scene 1. Hi, my name is Stella, and this is my friend Lala. What is your name? You want to be my friend? Yay! Come. I'm watching the show Dora the Explorer, and this is the part where Dora is about to go on an adventure with her friend called Boots. Yes, come, sit. Daddy's hurting mommy again, and he's screaming so loud. When Daddy drinks from that bottle, he's not nice to mommy, and he's not nice to me either. Come, we have to hide before he hurts us. Scene 2. Stella! I told you to go clean up this mess. What is wrong with you? I always have to repeat myself. God, you're so useless. You know what? Oh, God. You're just like your dad. But Mom, I was doing my homework. I was gonna go clean up after. You always have an excuse. You know what? I have a headache. You're wasting my time. Just get out of here. Just get the hell out of here. Scene 3. Mom, do you know if Daddy will be able to make it for my birthday party on Saturday? What are you talking about, dum-dum? You know what your dad does on Saturday. He's gonna be drinking himself silly, doing God knows what with who knows who. He doesn't have time with you for your nonsense. Woman, just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Just get out. Just go back to your room. Leave me alone. Dear friends, I don't have to point out that our sweet Stella is being raised in an abusive, unhealthy, and neglectful environment. Those environments usually trigger feelings of shame, lack of self-love, low self-esteem, and inability to develop healthy connections with others, and an omnipresent feeling of void. Stella will usually end up suffering from attention deficit disorder, anxiety, depression, eating disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, self-harming behaviors, just to name a few. But I would like to explore one problematic behavior with you today, emotional dependency. Although I was fortunate enough to be raised in a healthy and loving home, certain traumatic events in my youth have turned me into an emotionally dependent teenager and woman. Let me start by explaining what I even mean by this. Emotional dependency is the unidirectional tendency that Stella will adopt to only exist through another individual and to ignore her own needs, to give all the importance to the other. According to psychologists, if Stella grew up in a neglectful or unstable or abusive environment, she will have a high probability of becoming emotionally dependent. She'll have a tendency to sabotage healthy relationships, even when they're going well. She will, however, struggle to leave toxic relationships even when she's suffering. She will accept things that displease her just to please the other in an attempt to avoid the same rejection that she lived during her childhood, to finally feel loved, accepted, and validated. She will keep going back after each wound towards the person who inflicted the pain and holds the power to make it all go away. Luckily, though, there's still hope for Stella, as there was for me. Woo! There are many solutions to correct problematic behaviors, such as individual or group therapy, journaling practices, coaching, so many books, videos, and tools from professionals on social media, or what I recently started calling YouTube College. To wrap it up, what we have just seen that problematic behaviors can stem from being raised in an unhealthy, neglectful, and unstable environment. Stella will attempt to fill the void that was created to meet those unmet needs, and not always in the right places or in the right ways. Dear comrades, here's a challenge for you. Next time someone triggers you by acting in a way that makes you want to shout, "Hey, what is wrong with you?" Remember little sweet Stella? Bye. Don't be too quick to react or to judge people by their current behavior. Think and consider their journey and find the compassion to ask instead, "Friend, what happened to you?" Contest chair. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Mock Evaluation Speech Contest. You cannot imagine how excited I am about this event, but what makes me the most enthusiastic is our panel of 6 outstanding speech evaluators who will be evaluating the speech that you have just watched called "What is Wrong with You?" My goal is to go to the World Championship of Public Speaking with this speech at some point in the coming years. So this is a very serious affair for me, but we'll have a good time doing it. The rules of the game are simple. Each speech evaluator will have between 3 and 5 minutes to give the best evaluation of their lives. Unlike official speech evaluation contests, there is no judge. There is no timer. The judge is you at home or at work or wherever you are. That's correct. You heard me correctly. You'll have until Wednesday, March 2nd at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to vote. How can you vote? There's only one way that will be acceptable: in the YouTube comments section below. No need to be fancy. Just write the name of the evaluator who you felt provided the most valuable feedback and should receive the first prize. If you want to be fancy, by all means, please leave your own feedback on my performance or on the evaluator's performance. We would love to know what you think. Important note, there is a cash prize for the speech evaluation first place winner. So your vote matters. Let's jump right in with our first speech evaluator, Alexandra Shirokova. She is an avid international enthusiast, economist, and project manager by training and a storyteller by calling. Originally from Moscow, Russia, Alexandra moved to Canada to explore the career of economics and international development, and while doing so, she discovered the hidden gifts of public speaking. She's currently the president of Creativity Plus Ottawa Toastmasters Club, a member of French club Les Mozarts, and of a Spanish club Hasta Pronto. She's also a 2-time international speech contest winner for District 61. This past August 2021, Alexandra was also a semifinalist of the World Championship of Public Speaking. Today, Alexandra is representing the virtual club Hasta Pronto. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to evaluate your speech today that is provocatively titled, "What is Wrong with You?" But actually, despite the provocative title of your speech, it raises a very, very relevant theme for our day-to-day. be it at a grocery store or on the street or during any interaction with a stranger or any person, when we really seek to see what's wrong with them, and we're impatient and we're trying to judge them and leave in very little space for understanding and hearing people's stories. And I loved how you have demonstrated the essence of your message with an actual story. The story of a little sweet girl, Stella. You brought us through 3 main moments of Stella being terrified of her dad when he is drinking and starts yelling at her mom when she is watching a cartoon. When mom was lashing at Stella for not cleaning her room and saying she's as useless as her dad. And Stella being disappointed that her dad will not join her for the birthday party. And as I was watching you going through each of these episodes, I really appreciated the creativity that you have employed by illustrating your story and by using different props. When you sat down as a little girl and you had a toy for Stella, and then you had a hood when she was talking to her mom. And when her mom was talking to her, at some point, you went a little bit to the side on the left side of the screen and you started talking to us. And so, since currently a lot of our interactions with the audience are happening online through the screen, my challenge to you and my call to you would be to play on that a little bit more and possibly introduce some more distinctive props for Stella. It possibly can be a bow or maybe some flowers or maybe a special garbs. And equally the same idea goes out to her mom, making it more distinct for us so that we as the audience can tell you both apart. And you can also be talking between yourselves, but not necessarily looking at the camera just yet. And if you do that, I find that this can be very powerful and create this powerful visual effect and create a separation in our mind between you as the presenter and Stella, who is going through her troubling experiences as a child. And it's also powerful for the audience, but also for us as speakers who are learning to impersonate different people and individuals and bring that effectively in our speeches and in the online presentation specifically. And I loved how after your story, you looked directly in the camera and you said, "Dear friend, I don't need to tell you that Stella was raised in the abusive environment." And in that moment, I felt that you're finished with your role as a Stella and you went back on the role of Patricia as the presenter. Overall, your speech presented that effective combination of illustrative storytelling with different examples, and that's grounded also in theory and psychology and research by Bruce Perry. You also employed very effectively the rule of 3. You had introduction, body, and conclusion, and you also had 3 specific examples for the story of Stella. You didn't have too much of detail, but just enough to get your point across. My second challenge to you would be to think of your speech as a story that's like river or water flows and it gets it all together and leaves nothing behind. Because at times the transitions were a bit too abrupt and I felt like I struggled staying along with you, especially in the introduction when you brought in the customer yelling at the cashier and then suddenly you started talking about Stella and I started wondering, well, who is Stella and why is she important? And I felt like in that particular moment, you could appeal to us as your audience, because you have done that several times in the speech already, and say, "Hey, dear friend, let me illustrate to you my point on the story of the imaginary girl Stella, whose experiences might be very similar to some of yours." And then you introduce Stella's story, but weave all of them together, leaving nothing behind and not having those very concrete demarcation lines between scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. That said, Patricia, you set such a beautiful example of very courageous and fearless storytelling and your body language. You shook the camera when you needed, you pointed at us with a finger, yelling, "What is wrong with you?" And I started laughing in that moment, even though it wasn't a laughing matter, but I felt it was really funny. And then in the end, or in the beginning and in the end, you introduced this beautiful board with red aggressive letters saying, "What is wrong with you?" And then you flipped it back to blue saying, what happened to you? And this is beautiful example for everyone who is watching and trying to be a presenter, that online presentations can be fun, should be fun. And the most simple things like your everyday objects can become very useful props for the story and the message to strengthen it. And the message is, we shouldn't rush in judging each other, and we should cultivate the understanding of each other's story. And so my final appeal to you would be to invite Stella to be more visible in your introduction, in your conclusion, and give her more space. What would be Stella's final words? What would be her appeal to us as the audience, and what would she want us to go away with? Because I want her story to be that of happy ending. And I want her to hold that board with red aggressive letters saying, what is wrong with you? And I want it to be her to flip it back to blue and say, what happened to you? And with this, I wish you and Stella all the best and more stories to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, let's move right to the second evaluator, which is none other than Darryl Pace. He is an award-winning speaker, senior information technology consultant, a husband, and a father. Darryl has competed in the 2021 World Championship of Public Speaking and made it to the top 8 best speakers in the world. That is top 8 out of 30,000 outstanding speakers. In addition, he has been a featured speaker at IT conferences, IT and sales industry associations, colleges, and networking events. As an IT consultant, Darryl has worked and delivered solutions for a wide range of clients, including Fortune 500 companies, as well as for numerous small and medium-sized businesses. Throughout his career, Darryl has been labeled a 5-star consultant who builds and maintains lasting customer relationships. Today, Darryl is representing 3 clubs from Tennessee, USA: Franklin Toastmasters, Brentwood Early Risers, and Brentwood Evening Toastmasters. The floor is yours, Darryl.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, everyone here on the panel. Patty, I greatly enjoyed your speech. Your speech was one that I found emotionally gripping because of the example you used, that of Stella and the environment that she grew up in. And also, I think it's an important speech as well. I think it's important because walking a mile in someone else's shoes is, or putting ourselves in another person's place. I think Dale Carnegie labeled this walking a mile in someone else's shoes. When we do that, we can then better communicate with them. We can understand where they came from and where they're coming from, and we won't be quick to judge. We won't be quick to judge when we do that. So this is an important speech, one that your listeners, when they take it to heart, can use to help their relationships to be better and to help actually the people that they interact with be better. So it's a very important speech. You used an illustration of Stella to make your point. That was very emotionally gripping. And the examples you used, I thought you acted them out very well. You brought Stella to life. You showed us her reactions during the times where she heard and or went through abuse. I thought during that point, or during that section of your speech, it was very gripping. It's also very heavy. And I wondered, this is a choice that you'll have to make, if you could have made that point with perhaps 1 or 2 examples rather than the 3. This is something to test out. The reason I say that is because, again, it's a very weighty part of your speech. On the one hand, I feel that it's not our job as speakers to make the audience feel comfortable. We want the audience to feel uncomfortable enough that they will change. You have to weigh that with, I guess, the audience reaction to a particular point of your speech. But again, you brought Stella to life for us. I thought you did an excellent job there. There were points in time during the speech where I noticed that you looked down or appeared to read. That's something to be aware of. And as you're moving forward in the contest, go through that speech enough times that it becomes part of you, part of who you are, so that you never have to look away from the camera unless you intentionally want to. So keep that in mind. Going back to the beginning of your speech, I loved the way that you opened the speech. Hey, what's wrong with you? Very effective, very effectively acted out. Now, when you first started, you started with kind of a neutral expression. Then you went straight into, hey, what's wrong with you? I thought maybe that could be even better if you started out with that great smile you have. And then switch to, hey, what's wrong with you? Starting out with a smile, then going to that separate expression. The smile gets us on your side immediately, makes us like you. Then when you go straight into, hey, what's wrong with you? That switches the, I guess, the tenor of the speech, the mood, and that's going to grab us and bring us in. I loved how you shook the camera to make that point that you made. I thought that was very effective. I loved the way that you contrasted, hey, what's wrong with you, with what has happened to you. I thought the two balanced each other out well. It's kind of poetic the way you did that. So that was very well done. A couple of things to be aware of during your portrayal of Stella. You disappeared from the camera at one point in time. I think in international competition, you have to be visible in the camera at all times. So that's something to be aware of. And during your description of Stella and the emotional outcomes that she might experience as a result of the trauma she went through, you went through several possible outcomes and you settled on emotional dependency. Here's a possible suggestion for your consideration. Instead of listing all of the possibilities of those emotional outcomes, you might say something like, those environments trigger an omnipresent feeling of void. Then you might say, I know, because although my household was loving and supportive, I suffered through some trauma, which caused me to be emotionally dependent. So instead of listing that list of possible outcomes, you center on the one possible outcome. This is going to make it more clear in your audience's mind. It will get them to focus on the one. And when you say this made me, the trauma I went through made me suffer from this emotional challenge, that's going to bring them into your world. It's going to make it it'll make it even more emotional. You're going to be standing there in front of them. The audience is going to feel your emotion when you do this. So that will bring the audience into your world. From there, in addition to saying, I know this made me emotionally independent, or this became a challenge for me, when you went on to define emotional dependency, you could do that. You could say that definition as follows. I know this made me struggle with emotional independency or emotional dependency. Then you bring that definition into the first person when you define it. I don't have it written in front of me, that definition, but you could say some of the things that I struggled with are seeing myself through other people, putting them first, for example. And again, that makes it personal. That makes it a personal story, something that I think will further grip and hold and get the emotions of your audience on your side and feeling what you felt. From there, As you went to the end of your speech, I loved the way you summarized it. You asked the audience to think and consider their journey. And instead of judging people, ask, friend, what happened to you? I love the way you made that ending audience focused. And of course, when we speak, we want to make our speeches all about the audience and how it's going to benefit them. So great way to wrap it up. Overall, fantastic job. Very gripping, very emotionally gripping speech, and one that I think will help your audience to become better people. Back to you, Patty.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Darryl. What a wonderful evaluation. It's going to get tough, guys. No pressure, Anton and Alex. So let's move on to our third phenomenal evaluator, Anton Coetzee. What can I say about Anton? He is a Toastmaster of 13 years, a distinguished Toastmaster, currently area director for M32, District 123, past club president, area and division leader for District 60, and club office trainer. But that is not who he is. He is a parent, a fellow Toastmaster, a peer, and a friend. He is a good, strong, and occasionally great speaker with a message or evaluation of fun, insight, and hopefully a grain of wisdom. Anton is the most humble and modest man I have ever met. And he loves custard. His motto for this decade, adapt and evolve. Today, Anton is representing two clubs from Toronto, Canada, the Towns of York and Speak Up at TD. Where's your Anton?
Patricia, what an amazing speech. I really enjoyed it for more than one reason. And as we progress, I will tell you what the reason is. Firstly, let me just give a bit of background. I believe evaluation should be unbiased and honest. I believe evaluation should never be dull, dark, dreary. Remember the rule of three? But I want it to be engaging, educational, and if possible, a little bit of entertainment as well. Is it easy to do it? No, but let's try today. Patricia, I love the way you started your thing. You started with a neutral expression and then you went straight in. What's wrong with you? What? Where are we going with the speech? What's going on? And then you brought in your whole introduction piece. And I was comfortable with it. I thought it was a great. And then you sort of sat down and you brought out this doll and you changed into Stella. I was a bit confused initially. Where are we going? What's happening? Here we're talking about a cashier. We're talking about a car. We're talking about some horrible signs that one shows each other. And you bring up your sign about what's happening, what's wrong, to change it to what's happening. And now you're going this way. Where are we going? It took me a moment or two to understand what was going on. But I love the way you portrayed the three different sessions in the next portion of your speech as such. You had the character of Stella and you brought her through the different ages as such. I really love the way you did it. You had, well, let me take a step back. When I evaluate, I try to decide on a method. My favorite method, of course, is, as many people may know, is the 3H method. Head for intellectual, logical, heart for feelings and emotion, and hands for gestures. But I didn't feel this was the right evaluation for this speech. I went for the more tradition of hear, see, feel. What I heard from you during this whole story was a wonderful example of a child going through the various stages of abuse and the effects of it on her as she progressed through the years. You portrayed it in three different sections: as a young child, teenager, and then older as well. And I thought it was very effectively done. What did I hear? I heard great language. I heard descriptive languages. I heard thought, logic on it. You mentioned psychologist Bruce Berry, if I remember correctly. You mentioned him a few times as somebody that as a reference point. And I think that is fantastic because it shows that you logically are progressing through a story as such, which we can follow. I'm going to give you a small gift here. You need to pause during a lot of your sentences or paragraphs It gives us, the audience, a moment to reflect, to take in what you said, to analyze it and to think about it and to react. Because this is not just a story of pleasure, it's a story of shame, guilt, but also of hope. And I think we need to go through those emotions as you progress through your story as well, because we are swinging between all three of those at least. I love the way you did everything like this. What did I see? I saw a person who was engaged, a person that was living her story, who was telling us about her. Even though she's portraying Stella, she was talking about herself in a lot of ways as well. And that's important. If we tell personal stories, us, the audience, can relate to you. And I think we did that very well. We were relating to you. We were feeling for you. We were sympathizing with you where we needed to. But we knew there was something more to come. We just didn't know what it was. And that added mystery to your story as well, which I really enjoy as well, because if you add mystery to all these other things, it is a sense of anticipation. I'm waiting to hear what's coming next. I can surmise what's going to go next, but I don't know. It's a mystery. And you did it extremely well. I really like the way you did this, because I could see not just myself, but others in the audience engaged in your story, listening there to what are you going to say next and how are you going to say it. And then, of course, how did I feel? Well, as I've mentioned, there is shame in it. There's guilt. There's horror. Because a lot of us somewhat of this did experience something similar as we grew up in various stages. Maybe not so badly, but yet, as teens, friends at school, or so-called friends at school, at university, work, we all get bullied in some way, manner, or form. So we can relate to you in a lot of this. I love the way you brought the emotional dependency portion into it. You rattled off a whole lot of things, and then you decided to go onto one, emotional dependency as such. And I think it's very critical. Do you need to rattle all those names off? It is up to you. But I think as you rattle them off, pause after each one. Give us a moment to think about it. See where we can potentially fit in those as well, because we're relating to you in the story as well. I just think overall, this was a fantastic speech. I really loved it. And I'd like to conclude or summarize my thoughts as such. I love the way you mentioned as an ending that there was therapy and other tools available for people that are suffering and like-minded, not just emotional dependency as such. And I thought overall, your whole story came out and you wanted us to think. You wanted us to realize that there is more to life. You need us to be, I think you were trying to make sure that our thoughts were provoked. It was slightly provocative in certain places, but the whole way through, there was a sense of hope, sense of achievement, sense of betterment. And I think this is what your speech is so powerful in. As a contest speech, I really think you can go far, but I would actually say this speech should be one of a series of speeches. And you need to decide how to do it, because there is so much room here and so much movement that you can take, so many different plays, and then you can decide on which one of these speeches will be the best for the future contests as such. This is just a beginning speech. It's not an ending speech. With that being said, congratulations, Patricia. Well done. Amazing story, amazing speech, and I wish you all the best going forward. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Anton. Thank you. On to our next evaluator, Alex McCarney. Alex is a man of many interests and passions, who is currently an information security professional. He speaks many languages and wishes to improve his oral, verbal, and non-verbal communication skills. And he gives phenomenal workshops on non-verbal communication. He is the Vice President of Public Relations in 2 clubs, Beyond Words Advanced Toastmasters Club and Hasta Pronto, which is a Spanish club. And he also recently joined the Dow's Lake Club. But today, Alex is representing the Beyond Words in Montreal, Canada. The floor is yours, Alex.
Thank you, Patricia. Friends. Patricia, it's a phenomenal speech, and it's a speech that can be tweaked and made even better, because this is the beginning of the speech, and this has a lot of ideas. And I've noticed some disparate kinds of points. However, it's all there. You have everything there. So first of all, I'll go into some of the technical things that I saw about the gestures, the grounding. For instance, you were a little bit close to the camera starting up. I like where you are now, or even a little bit further back, so we get to see more of you. That would be good. The gestures were great, the finger and all of that kind of stuff. The language, very good. However, I would ensure that you have sort of a uniformity of language. So you talk about omnipresent and things like this. It's a little bit high. Maybe you could use simpler words or words like pervasive, words that mean exactly what you say so that you can get the exact idea. The organization was wonderful. Your voice, of course, and your energy, your engagement, your enthusiasm, it was all there. You brought us together. But this is what I would like to see. You had a couple of different stories, but usually the story that's going to win is your particular story. So yes, while I like Stella and everything like that, I really want to know about Patricia. And I thought that there were all kinds of different stories that were good, but what can make it great and what often wins is a story told from beginning to end with story development and all of this kind of stuff. So that's my challenge to you, is to work on that. But with respect to how you told the stories, wonderful, compelling. Another challenge that I would have for you is to dial it back just a little bit, just a touch, because if you do have people who are suffering from, dysfunctional families or alcoholic children of alcoholics, etc., some of the things might be a little bit triggering. And so I kind of was frightened, a little bit from time to time. Of course, that's what you want. But you want to make sure that from each and every part of the story and each and every part of the speech that the audience is with you, right? So you don't want to jar them too much. You want to make your own story throughout. You want to have development and all of the other kind of stuff. And then you want to bring it home. You did all of that, but I think you can just improve it slightly. So in the time that's left, let me go through some of the kinds of things that can make a speech great. Triads, I think other people have mentioned that. This, and this. However, when you have a triad, do the trick that the old orator Cicero would do. He'd give you the first bad thing. Then he'd give you the second, even worse thing. And then at the end, he'd give you the real killer. So don't go past the three. I noticed that sometimes you would go this, and this. Just stick to three. Power, powerful, powerfuler, the most powerful. Now, as we're wrapping this up, I wanted to say, and I hope this will be helpful for you, but I'd like to see you rewrite the speech. I'd love to see the speech again. I'd love this to be your winning speech. And I think it is. I think it can be. Over to you, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Alex, for this lovely evaluation. On to our next speech evaluator, Michael J. Pope Jr. He is a distinguished Toastmaster. He is the CEO of Michael Pope Training, LLC. He is certified at the highest level as an international John Maxwell team speaker, trainer, coach, and as a DISC behavioral analysis trainer. He is also a certified virtual presenter, a self-confidence and personal development coach, and he shows people how to create lasting results using neuroencoding. Today, Michael is representing 2 clubs from Ohio, USA, Anthem Express and Speakeasy Toastmasters Club. The floor is all yours, Mike.
Oh, Patricia, what's wrong with you? Absolutely nothing. Hey, Patricia, I absolutely enjoyed your speech, and thank you for the opportunity to provide some feedback to you. Right, I tell you, your opening line pulled me in right away. The way you got in front of the camera with your finger, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, man, I felt like you were talking right to me. So excellent job. And Patricia, as a speaker, you already bring a lot of strengths to the table. For one, you're very comfortable in front of a camera, right? You make great eye contact all throughout. Even with your different characters, you still maintain great eye contact with the camera. You have a strong vocal variety throughout, and your character dialogue was wonderful. In your speech, you had 3 different characters, and you gave them all their own unique voice. So I absolutely love that. And then to top it all off, you actually put on a hoodie to represent a teenage girl. So that was brilliant right there. I absolutely love that. So obviously with any speech, we want to give you some opportunities to grow. So I'm thankful to be to provide a few opportunities for growth for you with this speech. So the first one that I have for you is when you asked your second question, which was, have you ever asked yourself that? And then you did a little swerve type motion. The way you did it, it was kind of distracting for me because I almost felt like you were smacking something with the way you did that little swipe motion. So one opportunity would be, instead of doing that, after you open up with your opening statement of, hey, what's wrong with you? Step to the side and act as if those words are coming to you. Show us kind of how you feel if you're hearing words like that. And then you can come back to the audience. And then you can ask a question like, how does that make you feel when someone says that to you? Are you guilty of saying or thinking that type of thought about somebody else? I know I am. And then you can transition from there. It could be something like, just the other day, as I was driving down the road, someone cut me off and I thought, man, what is wrong with you? For every time I'm at the store and I witness a customer verbally abusing the cashier, I think, dude, what is wrong with you? So that's kind of how you can transition a little bit. Also, when you introduce the line of what's happened to you, you kind of ran that right on with Dr. Bruce Perry, as if it was in one sentence. So I would say pause after you ask the question of, hey, ask yourself, what's happened to you? Or ask that person, hey, what's happened to you? Pause, give us that time to think about the answer. And then you can separately introduce the book by Dr. Bruce Perry and tell us about that. Now on to your scenes. You have 3 different scenes. Instead of using the word scene, I would prefer that you introduce your characters to us. So as an example, you could say, let me introduce you to my 4-year-old friend, little Stella. And then you would have Stella come down and introduce herself to us. And we transition that way. So Stella would do her thing like you did before. And then when you transition in from scene 1 to scene 2, you can come and narrate a little bit and say something like, young Stella and her mom spent years experiencing the trauma of those harsh words, something to that effect. And then that way we can kind of see that, okay, this is still Stella and she's grown up a little bit, right? Years have passed by, she's still dealing with it. And now we can kind of see how it's affecting her mom as well. Okay. Then also, when you go from scene 2 to scene 3, I would say give Stella an age. My guess is that she's probably a teenager based on the hoodie, or a preteen. But I would say give her an age. Since you're giving her a birthday, go ahead and give her an age so that way we can kind of relate to what she's doing. But overall, it was really good. I think your like I said, your vocal variety for your characters was excellent. I felt like I really know Stella based on how you described her. And then going to your conclusion, I think you had a wonderful conclusion. And I love it. It was next time someone triggers you by acting in a way that makes you want to shout, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Remember little sweet Stella." So you give us something to thought. We have something that we can work with. So overall, Patricia, great job with your speech. Like I said, there's a few opportunities I think you can change, make some tweaks there to make it a better speech. Thank you.
What a wonderful evaluation. Thank you so much, Mike. On to our next and final speech evaluator, Urmi Hossain. Urmi is the president of the Royal Speakeasy Club. Finance is her passion. She holds a bachelor's degree with distinction, honors in finance, and she's currently pursuing her Chartered Financial Analyst, CFA, designation. She likes to work out, read, and do a lot of humanitarian work. She also loves pasta, chocolate, and coffee. Urmi's favorite quote, "The higher the risk, the higher the reward." She loves to visit podcasts, and she's the reason why I even started interviewing world champions and motivational speakers, because she invited herself on my YouTube channel. Literally, she's a force to be reckoned with. Finally, 3 adjectives that describe Urmi: dynamic, disciplined, and determined. Today, Urmi is representing the Royal Speakeasy Club from Montreal, Canada. The floor is yours, Urmi.
Fellow Toastmasters, and especially you, Patricia, I think you did a great job today at delivering your speech. It was such a pleasure to listen to you, and it will be a much bigger pleasure for me to give you my feedback today. So I do have a few points that I really enjoyed of your speech, and I made notes as you were speaking. So first of all, I think you had a great opening. You hooked the audience into your speech by saying, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I really like that, because in that one sentence, you grabbed everyone's attention, and in that one sentence, we could feel your anger and frustration. And what I liked even more is that you went back and you composed yourself to introduce us to the topic of your speech. So I think you did a great job on that, to open your speech with such a strong statement and with so much emotion. Then I really like the way you introduced the topic, because you basically introduced the topic of your speech by saying, instead of saying what's wrong, why don't we say what happened to you? And you lead up to your whole speech. What I found very interesting was actually the little place that you had within your speech, which I feel is very uncommon for me to see, or especially, well, I would say I've never seen one. This is my first time seeing little scenes in an actual speech, and I think you did a great job, because those scenes were real examples of the topic that you were going to talk about in your speech. And it was very clear who was Stella, who was her mother, and you were very able to show who was the little girl, that little shy girl, and then you had that angry and frustrated mother on the other side. And in the whole, I would say the body of this speech, you had very good hand gestures. You had very good pauses, like, you know, you weren't rushing too much. You had very good intonation too, and vocal variety to show all these different emotions. And honestly, I think you did a fantastic job on that. And lastly, what I really liked about your speech was also towards the end, how you were trying to conclude this speech by going back to the main point of your topic, which is don't say what's wrong with you, but just say what happened to you, and you just ended it right there. Which brings me to my points of improvement, which is related to your conclusion. I really like your conclusion, but I feel that you should have just ended the conclusion as soon as you said, instead of saying what's wrong with you, or when you think about what's wrong with you, think about that little girl Stella. I think that should have been the end of your conclusion, because on the next part you're giving more recommendation, more advices, and people already, you lost the audience right there. So maybe be careful on that. Another thing is, I was following your eye movements, and I noticed that you were flipping a paper as you were speaking. So be mindful of that, especially because we are on Zoom. We see you very well, so we see when your eyes are moving. And lastly, in one point of your speech, especially towards the end, you are saying, luckily I didn't go through all this, hooray! There is something not really synchronized. I feel that that emotion of joy and happiness is not synchronized with your whole speech, because I think your speech is more about a topic that is very serious and very dramatic, and when you add that emotion of, you know, joy and happiness, it's not going in the same flow. And that's where I think you should have worked a little bit better, because I think when you talk about this type of serious thing where, you know, there is emotional abuse, or, you know, sort of like manipulation and things like that, where people do not grow in a very good environment, I think you could have delivered that particular message in a different way. And I think that's something that I noticed that was very disconnected with your whole speech. But other than that, I'm very happy of your speech, and I'm very happy to see all your progress. And you have come so far, so really well done. Back to you.
What a wonderful time I had with all of you, fine evaluators. I hope you had half as much fun as I did. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your valuable time and your hard work, because I know you're all extremely busy individuals. The ball is now out of our hands now and into the hands of our friends, families, clubs, and the YouTube population to determine who the winner of this mock speech evaluation contest will be. There will be a special recognition for the top 3 winners. And as I said, cash prize for the first prize winner. So vote, vote, vote. And I will leave you with this. The power of your voice can change the world. Find it and use it. See you in the next video. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this. I had a really good time filming this. We all had a really good time. And please let us know who is your favorite. Feel free to tell me who, if you like who you like in order. But the point is, I'll just select the first one that you chose, and whoever has the most vote will win the prize. And the top 3 will be getting a beautiful certificate for this mock contest. All in good fun. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And see you later.